We all know that San Francisco has a pretty big problem, and one of the biggest problems is going to be empty real estate. Now, one of the biggest buildings in San Francisco is going to be the good old Salesforce Tower. It looks pretty goofy. Some people don't like the design, but personally, I think it's okay. It's their tallest skyscraper, especially with San Francisco being like an earthquake zone. Making a tower that big is super expensive, not to mention the insurance is extremely pricey. So how is the Salesforce building doing recently? Is it getting a lot of tenants? Is it getting a lot of office guys? Because it is like one of the most valuable office pieces in San Francisco. It's in a very good location. It's next to different parks. It's next to the water. Some of the most expensive condos in all of California are around the Salesforce building. Well, let's check it out. So one of the Twitter tweets out there says, the Salesforce Tower dominates the San Francisco skyline, but this building has a major problem. It's pretty much empty, and it's not the only one. A third of the city's downtown offices are completely vacant. In fact, the vacancies are so bad that you could actually shove 160,000 office workers inside all these vacant buildings to fill it up. And that is a lot of empty space. And look at this, right? It's not on the bottom just yet. San Francisco office vacancies are hitting an all-time high. And going back to the Salesforce Tower, it's actually pretty empty. If you check out this video on X or Twitter, you can see it's the game room for the Salesforce Tower. And generally, these amenities are somewhat popular among many of the tech employees, because who doesn't like a good arcade run every once in a while? It's completely free for employees, but you don't see a single person, and they actually dedicated a good chunk of that floor for just a game room. Usually, when an office building is completely filled up, these amenity rooms like game rooms, cocktail lounges, penthouse view lounges, they always have some people in it, right? You always see like a few dozen people walking around. But this game room in the Salesforce Tower being so nice is completely empty. And it really just shows you that there's really not that many workers. And Salesforce themselves have also said that they're closing down several San Francisco office buildings throughout the years. And they're kind of done. And they don't really want to come back anymore. And like I said, San Francisco office vacancies are just so high. And it's kind of dangerous to see vacancies at this level. And the city is already facing a massive budget crunch. They even have to cut $200 million away from the budget just to not go into the negatives. They cut $30 million from the healthcare area and almost $30 million from the police department. I don't really think these are things that San Francisco can afford to cut, especially what the city is looking like. Office vacancies in San Francisco rose to a new high in the fourth quarter of 2023, according to real estate data. The vacancy raised all the way up to almost 36%, a modest jump from last quarter's 34%. And what this translates to is another 1.4 million square feet of loss, the equivalent of another San Francisco Salesforce Tower being completely empty. So basically every 3 months on average, San Francisco gets one more empty Salesforce Tower worth of square footage, which is an enormous amount. This is not a small amount at all. We're looking at millions of dollars worth of real estate, even billions being completely wiped out in just a single 3-month period. And what's even worse about this is the consistency of the vacancy rate, right? 34 to 36. Guess what happened in the beginning of the year? It was like 32. 32 to 34, 34 to 36. Every single quarter, it seems to just increase by around 2%. So a total of 6.7 million square feet of office space came back to the market 2023, making the second worst year since 2020. And if you look at some of the really interesting numbers of San Francisco, there's one thing you need to know is the downtown is becoming a ghost town. If you guys thought Portland, and if you guys think like Chicago is pretty bad, and if you guys think Minneapolis is bad, well, just you wait. The amount of people using mobile devices in downtown San Francisco is ranked 63rd, only 32% of what it was before. And those are really trashy numbers, meaning used to be 100 people, now we're at 32 people. It's worse than Minneapolis. It's worse than Portland. And that shows you how terrible the city is becoming. And tourists just don't want to come to these places. And this is also affecting extremely valuable pieces of real estate. Like, for example, this massive mansion It was sold during the pandemic, and I don't blame these guys. The pandemic introduced a lot of low interest rates. Somebody bought this massive townhouse in San Francisco with amazing structure, right? This is a really nice townhouse. And back in the peak of San Francisco real estate, this is worth $20 million. And that's exactly what it sold for. $20 million, 2,000 square footage per, square feet. And it was recently sold for $10 million at a square footage price of $923. Initially, they tried to list it for the same amount, like $20 million, but nobody wanted to buy it, so they lowered to 18. Nobody wanted to buy it, lowered to 15. And then I guess somebody came along and said, sell it to me for $9.99 million, and we'll call it a day. And they sold it. I can't believe it. They actually sold this building to someone for $10 million, taking a massive 50% loss. And what's really worse about this is $1 million back in 2020 was worth so much more than $1 million now. In just a span of less than 4 years, we already got insane amounts of inflation, which $1 million back in the old days, just a few years ago, was worth a lot. I mean, just a few years ago, we actually had a dollar menu. Now we don't at McDonald's. And look at this, right? This is on Russian Hill, one of the nicest neighborhoods in San Francisco. And this just shows you that pricey real estate cannot be sold. And the developers who made extremely pricey condos are left holding the bag. If you look at this, it's a CEO of a software company and his wife purchased a home for $20 million, but listed just 2 years later after their youngest child went off to college and took a massive $10 million loss. And by the way, the San Francisco transfer fees, the transfer taxes, the agent fees are all extremely expensive. So I don't really think they took away $10 million, probably like $9 million, maybe a little more than that. So the losses are insane. And many people who look at these stories get cold feet and they don't want to invest in San Francisco real estate. And can you blame these people for not investing in San Francisco real estate? Not really. San Francisco real estate is down in the dumps. Several expensive condos cannot be sold. And we're not even talking about the pricey condos. We're talking about the cheap condos too. Condos are just $600,000, $700,000 for one bedroom. They're completely empty. Nobody wants them. 1554 Market Street. You got the Oak, you got some boutique condos out there. Nobody wants them. They are empty. It's so bad. Even apartment rental buildings are going foreclosure. Nothing seems to be going into the favor of San Francisco. And like I said, even New York City housing is kind of iffy, but at least New York City prices recently are kind of stabilizing. And they could still charge you like $1.9 million for one bedroom, which is insane. But you can't do this in San Francisco. You can't charge people $1.9 million for a one bedroom. You could probably charge like $500,000. So it just shows you like this huge comparison, right? New York City real estate isn't great, but at least the prices are holding pretty steady in certain neighborhoods. San Francisco, the whole entire thing is a terrible investment. Every single building is pretty much vacant right now, and even the massive Salesforce tower is empty. Before I leave, definitely check out the private Discord server, guys. It's a Patreon link below for some amazing trades, even a 7-day free trial. Lots of winning trades here. So definitely trade with us, guys. Make some money with us. We are having a great time, and see you later.